Hello, good afternoon. We know you guys are keen to get moving on the second essay, so we'll give out the topics for the second essay on Monday. And the deadline, I can't remember now what the current deadline is. The 10th? Okay, the 10th of November somehow seems a bit soon, so we're going to move that back about a week. Is that okay? Does anyone... That's okay. Is that okay? Oh, you're happy for it to move back a week? Okay. So that's what we'll do. Essay topics on Monday and the deadline back about a week. Okay, the next few sessions we're going deep into the identity of the self. Today we'll just talk about what the identity of the self is and why the identity of the self seems to have some special connection with memory. And maybe on Monday we'll carry on with this thing from John Locke that we'll be looking at today. And then the next up, either on Monday or Wednesday, will be Bernard Williams' article, The Self and the Future, depending on how things go today. Okay, so let's start out. I said there's thousands of words, thousands of articles, many books been written on personal identity since Locke, and most of it is built around his example of the prince and the cobbler. That's really where it begins, because Locke really seemed to make a discovery there. The discovery is that you are not a human being. I mean, this sounds like the kind of thing your friends say to you late at night, but the idea is it's not that you are of some different biological species, but that you do not belong to any biological species at all. That biological species are concrete entities. How should I say? The human being consists of a body and a brain, I guess, something like that. But the self is a little bit more abstract than that. And Locke's point is you can make perfect sense of it being the same human being, the same person occupying a different body. So a different human being, a different human body, but the same person. Here's the story. Should the soul of a prince, carrying with it the consciousness of the prince's past life, enter and inform the body of a cobbler, that body being as soon deserted by the cobbler's own soul, everyone sees he would be the same person with the prince. The person in the cobbler's body, that would be the same person with the prince, accountable only for the prince's actions. But who would say it was the same man? It's not the same human being. So is it clear what the story is there? That the prince goes to bed as usual one night, and then the next morning there wakes up in the gutter the cobbler's body, looking for his servants, wondering where the tea is, and simultaneously, up in the palace, the body that was formerly inhabited by the prince is waking up, remembering a drunken night in a tavern the night before, and wondering who all these people are. That's a familiar, I don't mean we've all been through it, but what I mean is it's a familiar scenario from about 1 million movies or stories or whatever. Yeah? Is that perfectly clear what the story is? So biologically, it's the same person waking up in the gutter as was there the night before. Biologically, it's the same human being, the same thing waking up in the gutter, the same animal waking up in the gutter, but it's inhabited by a different person. The point is that person is a more abstract kind of category. The self is a more abstract kind of category than the notion of a human being. I was asking someone for references in this, and they told me that the story... Does anybody know this story, Yamada Kun and the Seven Witches? I'm told it's very, very popular. It's manga. I don't actually know what manga is. But anyway, as you can see, she is a real good girl, and he is a real bad boy. And they have the capacity to swap bodies. I don't really know the technical details any more than that, but it's very popular. Apparently it's current. So don't say this course is of no contemporary relevance. Okay. Should the soul of a prince carrying with it the consciousness of the prince's past life enter and inform the body of a cobbler as soon deserted by his own soul? Well, when you put it like that, it looks like the key thing he's going for there is the idea of the soul. The point is the souls are swapping bodies, right? There was one soul associated with this body, another different soul associated with that body, and now the souls have swapped bodies. That is a very natural way to think about it. But Locke's point here is, one of the great things about Locke's point in this discussion is that if people can swap bodies, they could swap souls too. So if bodies are reusable, as it were, then souls are reusable too. If people can swap bodies, they can swap souls too. So this is not an argument for saying that you are a soul or that you are something non-physical. That's not the way it works at all. It doesn't depend on that. Locke says, I once met with one who was persuaded that his had been the soul of Socrates. I have that feeling, you know. You just get a feeling, you know. And it says, how reasonably I will not dispute. For this I know, that in the post he filled, which was no inconsiderable one, presumably meaning that he's running the country or something like that, he passed for a very rational man, and the press has shown he wanted not parts nor learning. But the thing is, although he might have the soul of Socrates, maybe it's kind of an ecological principle that you can reuse, you know what it is, throw old souls away. You can keep them and they can be recycled. That's what I want. They can be recycled by different people. But that's not to say that although I might be using Socrates' soul, I might be recycling Socrates' soul, that wouldn't necessarily mean that I had any memories of Socrates' past life. Yeah? And if I don't have any memories of Socrates' past life, then even if I have the same soul, I'm not the same person as Socrates. The key thing would be whether I have any memories of Socrates' past life. Okay? So, person is a little bit more abstract than any notion of a biological unit, any notion of the human being or the concrete body and brain. Happy with that? Another way to get at the same idea is to think about brain transplants. This also is very popular. This picture is from a 1950s thing called Martian brain transplants. There is the Martian. And the idea is, suppose you're told that your liver is giving out. They say, the punishment you've given it all these years, you just can't take it. And then you're told, but we've got a donor. We can get you a new liver. That's just good news, right? But suppose you're told in a few years, all that philosophy has been very, very bad for you. Your brain is wearing out. But that's okay. We have a donor. Is that good news? Put out your hand if that would be good news. If that would be bad news. If you don't know what the question is. Okay, can you articulate, why don't you know what the question is? Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you say it's your heart, that affects everything, right? It's connected to everything. The blood goes everywhere. Making thoughts. No, that's true. You know, it doesn't. It doesn't, I hope. I mean, I don't think anyway. Yeah. I suppose so, yes. Yeah. That would sound like bad news. Yes? Yes. Would you keep your own consciousness? Yeah, that's the question. I mean, I guess that's the danger, right? That you're not getting a transplant here. Your body is being invaded by someone else who is using it as a host. Right? That's why you wouldn't want it. Yeah? Isn't that right? But suppose you try and put your finger on just what the problem would be here. Is it that just it would be kind of icky to have someone else's brain in your precious body? I mean, yep. Yeah. Well, yeah, it depends exactly what the scenario is, doesn't it? That's what you're saying, it depends what the scenario is. I mean, if you were around, let's suppose, then you would know. If you're still around after this. Yeah. And it changed that body, yes.
Then my brain started operating with that body.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's the other way to put the idea. Yeah, that suppose I'm told your body is all worn out, but rather than have you go through some tedious dieting and exercise regime, we have a new body here into which you can transplant your brain. Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Well, I mean, I would think it was great. Yeah. Part of it, yes. Yes. That's great. Okay, I share that sense. If you're told that your visual system is packing up, but if we put in this little bit, patch in this bit from a donor, then you'll be able to see again. I'd go for it in a heartbeat, yeah. That's your point. But if it's memories, if it's a center of your sense of where you've been and what you've done, that would be different. Yeah. I strongly agree. Yeah. Yes, that's right. If you lost the memories, you'd have lost a bit of your brain that knew about the memories. Yeah, right, yeah. It can happen. You know, I took that hunting trip all those years ago, but I just can't remember anything about it. It's gone. I guess it could happen, but okay. But we're just asking the abstract question, would it matter if this happened? Not would you know about it? And this has come up before. Things that you don't know about can really matter. You see what I mean? I mean, yeah. If you weren't going to make it through the operation at all, yeah, you wouldn't know about it. You wouldn't be there, right? I mean, so you wouldn't know. But it still matters whether you make it. No? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Wouldn't your first self be dead if you don't remember? Yeah, I guess that is the thought. So that makes it sound like the identity of the self is not the identity of the body. The identity of the self is the identity of the brain. Right? What matters is the brain. Yeah? You could think of, you could have most of your body amputated, but if you're left with the brain, that's just a kind of limiting case of amputation. Amputation doesn't mean you've been killed. You can amputate everything except the brain, and that would still be you. You see what I mean? So the brain is really who you are. The thing is, when you're arguing like that, what's going on here is, as a couple of people said, I think, what's important is that it's whose memories have survived intact. Yep. body.
without the body, it's still not the self. Like, if the self is the brain, but the brain needs the body to exist again, is the self still?
If the, yes, right, carry on. Yeah, yeah.
Like, could you argue with
Very good. If you've got the brain alone, you don't even have a person. You just got a collection of cells. Yeah. If I'd got a nice, cheerful disposition, and that's what everybody values about me, then having a brain there is just not going to be the same thing, right? What's important is that the brain be embedded in a body, but it wouldn't necessarily matter very much which body. I mean, it might be that in years to come, when you're born, they take a sample of your cells so they can clone a spare body. Yeah, that way, if anything happens to you, you can just pop the brain into the new body. Yeah, that would be handy. I mean, you see what I mean? But so you wouldn't ever have a person unless you had a body there. But sameness of person would be sameness of brain, not sameness of body. Is that catching what you were after?
Yeah. But the whole, like, as a self would be the same if you get a replicated body again, but that new body is on
That new body would be the...
still identity, isn't it? Like,
That's right.
it could be a different identity if it was a different body, even if it was just like replicated, right?
It would be a different person if it was a different body.
Yeah, just the muscle memory, like,
Right.
muscle in the place.
That's interesting. Okay. That is truly interesting. Muscle memory matters more to some people than others, right? I mean, if you're a concert pianist or a weightlifter, then muscle memory might really matter to you. Yeah? You'd say, that's not me. You know, I spent my entire adult life developing these muscles. Different muscles, not the same person. Yeah? But if you're more cerebral, if you're a philosopher, for example, you might say, well, I don't really value the muscle so much. Yeah, but you're right, different people could put different weights there. Yeah. Yeah. Put in... Okay, you bring me on to my next point. Okay, that's very good. Okay, you're ahead of me. So the argument here is the brain is the thing that's carrying the memories. So that if you've got the memories, that was what someone was saying a moment ago, then if you've got ace memories, then you're A. I know this I think is your kind of scenario. Tell me if not. Suppose that when they're doing brain transplants, this might be in 20 years or so, suppose they're doing brain transplants. Well, doing a brain transplant is obviously going to be pretty precarious, so they might make a record of everything that's on your brain and store it in a hard disk. Yep. And so they can back up your brain just in case anything goes wrong during the surgery. Yep. So suppose that happened. Suppose your brain just got scrambled during the surgery, but then they backed up your brain. I mean, they restored your brain from the backup. That would still be you. That's all right, right? That's why you have the backup. That's right. Suppose it's just quite a simple case. Suppose your brain is just getting some surgery to help your visual system, let you see better, right? And then your brain is actually everything in your brain gets accidentally deleted during the process. But then they restore your brain from the backup they had in the computer. That would still be you. That's okay. Is it? Put up your hand if that would be okay. If that is very scary. Well, what's scary about that? It just seems kind of icky. Why is that scary? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but don't you have something like that when you're asleep anyhow? Yeah. Okay. Well, I agree it would be unusual to have that kind of blackout, yeah. But I don't really see what's scary about it, so long as you come back. It's just like, what? Say more. Okay, very good. Right. Well, there you are. There's a real life example. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Right. Right. Well, there you are. Well, if it's good enough for Captain America, then wouldn't that be okay? Yeah. No, just as when you're doing something to your computer, right? You make a backup of what's in the hard disk, just whatever happens to be there. Then, if something goes wrong, you can restore the whole lot. Yeah, that's right. Oh, the things that you've forgotten won't be there in the backup. Yeah, it'll just be a complete copy of everything that actually is in your brain right now. Yeah. Yes. That's very good. I said that the whole huge literature in personal identity comes from two puzzle cases. One is Locke's case. Yeah. The other one is the case you just invented. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what we do in that case is a separate topic that we're going to spend 2 or 3 lectures on, right? So can we just postpone that? Yeah, but I agree. Once you get to this point, it's a life possibility that thing could split. You could have printed. In fact, if people really like you, they might print off hundreds, right? Why not? Every town could have their own. Yeah. Which one would be the original? Or would you be dead? Okay. There's no original. Yeah, that's right. The original wouldn't exist anymore. Yeah. Okay, that example needs a lot of discussion, and we are going to give it a lot of discussion. Okay, but now suppose that what's going on is that they've got the backup of your brain in the computer, but your brain is actually destroyed. The actual biological thing is destroyed. And they say, but we have a spare brain here. We have one that just isn't being used. We grew that. This is one we prepared earlier from culture. It's not. It's no one's brain. It's just a blank brain. It's funny what you hear floating through the air from philosophy lectures. Then, if they put the blank brain in your head, then they restore that from the backup. Again, that would be fine, right? That would still be you. So it isn't the same body. I mean, it isn't the same brain at all here. But it's still you. So it's not the sameness of the self, the sameness of the body, or sameness of the brain. Here, you've got the different brain, but the resulting person has got memory experience of your past life. So it's you, rather than being someone else. So sameness of person doesn't depend on sameness of body or sameness of brain. It only depends on consciousness of the past person. And that's really Locke's main point. Can you put up your hand if you're comfortable with that? Yeah. And if you don't really see what the argument is, or if you disagree strongly, or disagree. Okay, so people are pretty much comfortable with that. Very good. So the idea is, if you've got a later person here, X, and an earlier person here, Y, and X remembers seeing and doing what Y saw and did, then X is Y. That's what the identity of the self is. That makes them the same person. Yeah? Locke says, since consciousness always accompanies thinking, and 'tis that which makes everyone to be what he calls self, and thereby distinguishes himself from all other thinking beings, in this alone consists personal identity, i.e. the sameness of a rational being. And insofar as this consciousness that you have of yourself, insofar as that can be extended backwards to any past action or thought, so far reaches the identity of that person. It is the same self now as it was then. So if you can reach back in time to some particular past person, then that is you. That's what makes it you. And 'tis by the same self with this present one that now reflects on it that the action was done. Let someone once find himself conscious of any of the actions of Nestor, he then finds himself the same person with Nestor. If you could reach back in time to classical Greece or whenever it was, then to the actions of Nestor, that makes you the same person as Nestor. It doesn't matter if the body, the brain, the soul are all different. If your consciousness reaches back in time to Nestor, then you are that same person. Had I the same consciousness that I saw the ark and Noah's flood, as that I saw an overflowing of the Thames last winter, or as that I write now, I could no more doubt that I who write this now, that saw the Thames overflowed last winter, and that viewed the flood at the general deluge, was the same self. Place that self in what substance you please. So substance here is body, brain, soul, whatever, anything. It doesn't really matter. If you can reach back to it, then that's you. So far as this consciousness can be extended backwards to any past action or thought, so far reaches the identity of that person. It is the same self now that it was then. It being the same consciousness that makes a man be himself to himself, personal identity depends on that only, whether it be annexed to any one individual substance, any one concrete thing, or can be continued in a succession of several substances. That all plain as day? Yep. So you're not a human being. You're not a soul. You're more abstract than that. Yep. Any problems with that? Yes? With reincarnation? Yeah, that's what he's saying. I mean, well, he's not saying it happens, but he's saying, tell me a bit more about reincarnation, actually. What's reincarnation? Yeah, right. That's the key thing. The same person abstractly puts it very well. It's not the same soul. It's not the same body. But you could be the same person. Yeah. He's saying that makes perfect sense. Yeah. He's not saying it happens. But he's saying it's not a contradiction. Yep. Would thoughts be one of the substances? No. I think in this picture, if you take the identity of a computer file, right, you can talk about moving a file from one disk to another. Yeah, I got it in this disk, now I move the file to that disk, now I move the file to that disk. There's nothing physical in common between the three disks. But that doesn't mean that you should be a dualist about computer files and say, well, actually, computer files relate to another stratum of reality than ordinary physics. You see what I mean? It's just an abstract kind of principle of organization of the physical that's being moved from place to place. Computer files are just kind of abstract, but they're not non-physical, but they can't be identified with any particular physical thing either. Yep. So thoughts are like that too. The thoughts of a person would be like that too. You can move a file around, you can move a thought around. All the thoughts that used to be in this brain are now on that brain. Sure, they can be generated by specific bits of brain, that's right. Well, just do it the way you would with a computer. I mean, if you generate a computer file, you do it by particular keystrokes, and you do it by the electricity being generated in some particular, well, I don't really know what they are, but chips or something. Yeah. So there's some specific electrical activity involved in generating the file. But then you can move the file from place to place. Yeah. That's just the way it goes. Yeah. These are kind of abstract configurations of the physical. And that's what you are. That's how you could be printed off. Okay? Okay. So, on Monday, we'll look more at why this all matters, why this is important. But today I just want to look a little bit more about what the idea is here, what we mean when we're talking about memory. So what we're saying is transfer of memories between the body of the prince and the body of the cobbler would mean that the people had swapped bodies. Transfer of memories between the soul of the prince and the soul of the cobbler would mean that people had swapped souls. Now, as already came up, someone was talking about muscle memory. People talk about procedural or habit memory. Like, if you remember how to ride a bicycle, or you remember how to play the piano, yeah, you remember how to sing a song, how to make tea. That's one kind of memory. Another kind of memory, Martian and Deutscher, that we were looking at last time, talk about these kind of distinctions. There's propositional memory. They're just remembering that the Battle of Hastings was in 1066, that Benjamin Franklin invented bifocals. All these memories you can have of particular facts. And then there's your memory of particular past events, autobiographical or episodic memory, where you remember the highs and lows of your own past life. I mean, what's your hunch? Which of these is going to be more important for the identity of the self? Can you put your hand up if you would make it procedural memory? If you would make it propositional memory? If you would make it autobiographical or episodic memory? Yeah, I think, yeah, very good. That's the usual answer given in the books. I guess one way to put it is that you can make perfect sense of losing procedural or habit memories, but staying the same person. Losing propositional memories. I can't remember all these dates now, but it's still the same person. But remembering of particular incidents, that seems specific, idiosyncratic to you. That's what's making you the person you are. So Locke's definition is a person is an intelligent, thinking intelligent being that has reason and reflection and consider itself as itself. You can think of yourself as yourself, one and the same person, in different times and places. But there's something special about the way you know your own past life. I mean, after all, if you're writing a biography of someone's life, or if you just have a friend you've had for a long time, you can know their past life as pretty much as well as you know your own. But there's that direct memory you have of your own past life. And one way to think of it is, it's imagistic. You have a kind of imaginative understanding of your own past life that you don't have of anyone else's. Another way to think of it is, you can tell the story of your own past life in a way you can't tell the story of anyone else's. You can think of memory as an exercise of the imagination. You can use imagination in knowing your own past life. Just as we were talking about Laurie Paul, we were talking about your imaginative understanding of your future life. You can think of memory as your imagination running backwards into allowing you to relive your own past life. So what is memory? Okay, so this is kind of connecting up with the stuff we did last time, that if you're going to remember a particular past event, then you have to have a current impression of the past event. If you're going to remember how the window was in your childhood bedroom, then you have to have some kind of sense of what that window was like. And moreover, the window had to have been like that, the way you remember it as being, if you see what I mean. So if you've got those two pieces, is that enough for memory? Suppose you take that example of remembering the window that you had in your bedroom when you were a child. Do that now. Can you remember it? Put up your hand if you can remember the window in your childhood bedroom. Okay, this is a good exercise to do. Okay, so you've got a current impression of that. And suppose the window was indeed just the way you remember it. Are those two pieces there, is that enough for it to be memory? Put up your hand if the answer is yes. And if the answer is no, well, no is the right answer, or at any rate, no is the recommended answer. The guys who said yes, you're right that these two pieces are critical. Even if you've got no impression at all right now, if you just can't bring it to mind, then that's an argument for saying you don't remember it. And if you've got an impression right now as to how it was back then, but the window was actually nothing like that, then that also means you don't remember it. But if it was that way, and you do have that impression, that's enough for you to remember it. That's the idea. But that's not true. I mean, suppose this is the window in your childhood bedroom. Right? Right? Something like that. Yes? No? Everybody's going, no, that wasn't a bit like that. Anyway, glossing lightly over that. Suppose you're discussing this with, say, your brother or sister or parent or friend or something, and they're saying to you, you don't remember the window, and they say to you, don't you remember? It looked like this. It was shaped like the wheel of a ship with spokes coming out from the center. So you now have an image in your head of the past window. And let's suppose that the information you're getting is correct. It was like that. Do you remember? Can you now be said to be remembering the past window? Put up your hand if the answer is yes. And if the answer is no? Of course not. They just told you. You don't remember it at all. You just saw a picture. Yep. Prompting. Yes, it is prompting. That's right. This is prompting. It could result in memory, but the point is at this stage, it hasn't yet generated memory. Yeah? So the question is, what would have to happen for it to generate a memory? You got an impression. At this stage, you already have an impression, and it's a correct impression. The past window was that way. So what more do you need? This is what we did last time. This is one of these pedagogically rewarding moments, right? Yes? You need to come up with a detail that wasn't mentioned in the prompt. That's great. That's a really natural idea. I don't think it can be right, because remember that thing about the magnificent board that we were talking about last time? It could be that you show me pictures, you tell me all the story of this window in such a way that the prompt is so full that there's nothing left for me to fill in. But there's still something more I've got to do in order to remember. Yep. Do I need to actually see it? Yeah. It's an interesting idea. And in practice that might often work. But the thing is, even if you see it again, right, suppose this conversation is happening just as you and I are at the dear old house, yeah, and you say, and I say, no, I just can't remember it. I can visualize it perfectly well. And we go round the corner and by God, there it is, right? Well, all that might happen is that I now see it. And I see it completely matches the way you told me it was. And I know that that's the way it was back then. But I still don't remember. I don't remember how it was back then. I don't remember the window. Yeah, I mean, that seems possible. Yep, yep. That would be, it's really hard to see how that could not be memory. But the key question is why? You're just filling in some more details there, but the person who's prompting you could have filled in the details. You see what I mean? So if it's just a matter of getting more details, that can't be the right answer, because you could get the more details without it being memory. Yeah? It occurred to me. Yeah. Yeah, it's something to do with the way the image is coming to you. Yeah. If it's coming to you entirely from the other person, then that's not memory. Yeah. Yeah, that moment where you say, oh, of course, yes, now I remember. Yeah, you could do it later without prompting. Yeah. Yeah, as you get older, sometimes you can't ever get stuff without being prompted. You know, every time we go over this, I have to ask you to remind me. Just, what is his name? What was he wearing? That, yeah, yep. Yeah.
The question might be, let's say you're in a position, people are telling you, oh, remember that window?
Yeah.
What would you yourself have to do in that situation?
Yes.
To call to mind that memory?
Right.
As opposed to a separate question, which might be, given that you have some image of
Yeah.
the window from your childhood, what are the necessary conditions to get back to your memory?
Yes.
So it might be
Right.
a slightly different question.
Yeah.
It seems like the answers you're getting are answers to the question, what could you do in this situation to
Yes.
call to mind that memory? But it seems like you might be trying to slightly different.
That's very good. Okay. So the way, you're right, I guess I am posing it like a practical question. How would you get a memory out of this situation? And everything you guys are saying makes perfect sense there. I mean, it might also be that if you just, a clump around the ear would do it, just, then that'll help you remember. But the question is, what's the difference when you do remember? What's the key difference? Yeah. You could, yeah. Yes. Right. There's something internal about what has to happen for it really to be memory. Yeah. I think that's very good. There's something internal going on when you remember, and it's not just a matter of being able to put out the right kind of public show. Because in this kind of case, I could put out the right kind of public show, but there's something internal that's missing. That's your point? Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. Yeah. Something scientifically triggering inside the brain. Yes. Yeah. Bingo. That's really what Martin and Deutscher were saying, right? There's got to be a trace in your brain that's getting activated. Yeah. Does it all come back to you? Right. Now we remember. Right. So the way Martin and Deutscher were putting it is, if you this thing about it being internal, if you're telling me about the window back then, So there's the way the window was back then. There's the window back then. And there's my impression of it now. And it's not just that I'm getting it right now. It's that the way the window was is what's causing me to have this impression. I have that impression as to how it was because that's the way it was with the window back then. That can't be the whole story because if you're telling me, it might be that if you're reliable, what you'll be doing is you saw the window back then and that caused you to tell me how it is now. So we want a causal connection that, as someone said, is internal. It's something inside me. And that's what Antonio was saying about, or talking about things occurring to you. It's what's triggering it. You want this stuff, this prompting, to trigger something inside you for it to be a memory. And if that happens, that you can be said to be truly remembering. It's not just, it's the memory trace is the key thing. So this is really what you're all about. Memories have to do with memory traces. It's memory when a trace that's been laid down in your brain earlier is being activated now. Yep. A red race car. Yes, just to take a purely hypothetical example, yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, you could be remembering it wrong. Yeah. 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 I guess there are just lots and lots of different cases here. I mean, suppose you remembered it, and it wasn't. You might say in that case, yeah, no, I know what car you're talking about, but it wasn't blue; it was red, and it was a race car, not a police car. Yeah. But if it goes too far, it wasn't even a car; it was a train. It wasn't even a train; it was a car mechanic's outfit. Yeah, it was actually a small dog. You can only be so far wrong. Yeah, I think it depends. There are just cases and cases. It depends what's important in the context. Yeah. Ah, right. There's a trace there. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I do see. No, I think that's really important actually, and it's important in everyday life. You know what? Of course I remember you, Anna. How nice to see you. Yeah. Let's see, you work in sales. No. I'm a nurse. And so on. Yeah, there's a point where you say, well, do I remember this person or not? Yeah. Okay, so the key thing is that anyhow, whatever exactly you say about these cases, when you say, aha, now I remember, the image might be the same as before, but then it's a trace that's being activated inside you, not the prompting that's doing the causing. So the thing is, we began with the idea that the notion of the self is very abstract, is not a concrete thing. The sameness of the self has to do with the sameness of memories, but now it looks like memory requires the sameness of the concrete trace. Yeah? So you can't be all that abstract. So thinking that through is, I guess, the homework for next time. Okay, thanks guys, great questions, great comments. Okay. Next time we'll talk about why all this is important.